Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. I'm going to show you our new wireless transfer energy system. And I can't state enough the fact that you have to understand what these energies are. And this seems to be something that is a big problem within the so-called radionic community, if there is any, because really they don't know anything about radionics and they're living in the past. Technologies that are over 100 years old that really aren't very valid anymore. And I'm not sure they ever really were. But you got to remember, this is not electromagnetic energy. This is not something that you power a toaster with, or a computer, or a cell phone. This is all a misnomer. And if we're going to have really potent technologies, we need to understand that. And of course, my subtle energy physics course, which will be ready soon, details all this. And so many of my other lectures detail this as well. So look them up so you understand what this energy is. And if you really want to be a master, you have to understand all this. But the bottom line is that you can transfer energy from a subtle energy physics machine to another device simply by using the correct antennas. And of course, here they are. Here's the correct antennas. But there's many aspects. Now, you'll notice these. It says disc 1, and you'll see that it has the radionic code to transfer. Very, very important, this code and using it with this special design, of course, being empowered by Radionic Tech and myself. You'll see the actual little machine cases they come in, which are very nice. They're labeled on it. Here is... Can we see this here? A little trouble with the light here. Disc 1, transfer to amplifier. And of course, these are beautiful. I mean, don't get hung up on the fact that these are, quote, CDs, which are kind of an old tech now, if you can call it old tech. I mean, it's great tech. And these are great ways to store things. They're nice and thin. They're light. You can carry these around. But remember, you've got several things going with the actual case here. First of all, you've got the very empowerment of Radionics Tech symbol. This is a fantastic, powerful symbol that's used for ascension and empowerment in general, and of course is unique to this organization and even trademarked. You also then have on the inside, you have these actual 4 amplifier images as well. You've got 2 little radionic machines. You've got the classic pyramid and our famous amplifying image in general. Of course, you store your disc in here when you're not using it, of course, but which won't be often. If you're using this as a actual transfer energy disc, you're probably never going to put it back in here. On the back here, again, you see radionictech.com, but you have another antenna here. So this case in itself is a whole other tool and just quite amazing. And you could use this by itself by actually putting the disc on here. Inside and these are the little machines that we'll be making many of. And then, of course, let me get in your picture. And it should be from, it has to be a Polaroid picture, and it has to be from a Radionic Tech camera. And you put it on here, and you write what you want, whatever that is. I need protection, I need money, I need a boost in body healing. You put it on there, write your little note, and then you close it, and you're done. So it's really quite exciting there. You could hit it with one of your handheld lasers if you have one of those. And just one of the many amazing things you can do with this separately. So these are exciting. We're going to have lots and lots of these little machines out there. And you don't really want to... actually... use these, well, you can use these on, but there's so many of these you'll be able to get out there. But as you said, look at that great little package. You can store these on a shelf, and we're going to have these for all sorts of things. Money, protection, uncrossing, chakra openings, and you'll be able to pull one of these out, use it, just pop your photograph on there and do it. And as you said, don't take shortcuts. Don't use other people's crap technologies. You are going to fail, and this is a problem with people. You know, if you're not using Radionic Tech, you're not using the proper technology. Only Radionic Tech knows what they're doing. Only we have valid products. Everybody else are really struggling misfits that really know nothing, to just put it bluntly. So one of the things we want to do, and that everybody, I mean, there's an awful lot of radionic machines out there, and you've got to upgrade them. One of the things is that while most radionic machines are, if they're not made by bad people, which is a problem here, but and if you have a machine that's made by the Satanist type companies like Magitex and other ones that were run by the infamous Carl Weltz and other ones, well, I mean, you're going to have to get a clearing plate to put underneath there. And this is one of those clearing plates, and you would put this underneath your machine to start off with. Again, here's one of those wonderful protective discs. You would put this under here, and this is good to clear machines out in general. And if you have a orgone machine of any type, you've got to have one of those clearing discs to put under there first. So there's a lot to go on. That's what happens when people get questionable. Now, it's not the public's fault that you were tricked by very bad people who are in this industry all the time and still tend to be. But that's just the way it is. I mean, we have to be aware of that. It's like so many things out there that you have to be careful of and know what the reality of life is. But the key is amplification. You got to remember that radionic energies are extremely weak. Even Rife-type frequency energies are very weak. They have to be amplified through a special process. This means you have to have a special amplifier. Here's our newest amplifier, doubled and powered from the old ones. And, of course, these are tube-based because they produce a very special resonance. Nothing else amplifies like these. But it's not just the fact that we're using tube amplifiers. We use special encoded technologies, special sigils and energy disks to convert this to work on a subtle energy basis. We have changed the way these function at a basically subatomic level. So the very essence of these machines have been changed to work with the special type of radionic energies that we're dealing with. And of course, I know exactly what these energies are. So you have to have one of these amplifiers. Our amplifiers in the future will be having plates underneath it and be replacing sacred geometry and tachyons most likely in the future. We'll see how that goes. But we now have plates like this that we can make up endlessly that have all the energy you need in them. These plates are not just a symbol and a number here. These plates also have on the reverse side here, we have encoded them with a special sound frequencies that produce strong energies to empower this. And these are, again, our proprietary understanding only that Radionic Tech has, as is these are our numbers that only work with the people that buy them. So that you've got so many things going on here because, you know, I know what I'm doing. I've studied this for 55 years now and understand the process of what these energies are. And we are in the development stage of producing more and more awesome technologies. So since we do understand that as a basic reality that's going on there, you have to understand all of it. It's not just this antenna, which this is the famous multi-wave oscillator antenna, which everybody loves and uses to transfer energy, to draw energy in. And of course, that's a great antenna. But if you don't have the radionic code here and you don't have the encoding on the back, you got nothing. And again, it goes with this. We have changed at the subatomic level here. We have changed the energetic flow of this machine to handle radionic energies. As we've done the same with this. This is our little transmitter, and these are beautiful. I mean, these are very well made. They have large tubes. This is a metal steel cabinet. It's sealed, so it's very protective of the tubes. These are really beautiful, and I always strive to get the highest quality products I can. There's no value in making this myself, and we can buy these pre-made at a professional level. It would cost me a fortune to make these. Why? This is fantastic. It's extremely well made. And of course, we'll show you. But this is the amplifier. We'll show you the back in a few minutes. But these are extremely well made. And it's the same thing with our transmitters. These are metal cases again. This is a very well made FM transmitter where you can adjust the actual, where you can adjust the actual frequencies here, and you can get excuse me, you can use pendulums and other things if you want to fine tune this, but in general, the actual frequency you set it on is not overly important unless you really want to micromanage and spend a lot of time figuring it out. But you certainly could do that as well because you're able to adjust this. Again, you need a transmitter. Again, this has been changed at the subatomic level to handle subtle energies that radionic machines produce and that are transferred here. Very important. You've got to understand that these are not just tube amps you can buy. We also put our special neutrino, tachyon, graviton energy cells here. Again, it's proprietary to only Radionic Tech. Tachyon products that are out there are pretty much all junk, and they're very low level no matter who makes them. And I've used them for years from a couple of manufacturers, and they're just very, very low. I mean, I've always liked them because of the pure energy that you get from tachyons, because they're faster than light particles like neutrinos. But the whole idea is that they are very poor quality. And finally, like everything I've always had to do, well, I got to make it myself because what's out there is crap. One of the major manufacturers of tachyons really is a bad company that overcharges for years and has very dubious connections. So stay away from other companies. Secondly, they don't have tachyon neutrinos, graviton energy cells that serve as an antenna to bring those very pure energies in. And they're just energy. They energize whatever they go into. So they help the process. They are not geared toward any particular energy. They're just amplifying what you have, empowering what you have, giving a little energy to what's there. And of course, we use some sacred geometry here as well. As I said, we're going to be changing the system to a degree and going all into power discs. But in general, this is what we have now, and we do the same thing here. You've got your tachyon, neutrino, graviton cell here. Very important. These bring up huge amounts of energy into the unit, purify everything, and pretty much double the power. We like to use sacred geometry. Again, these have been proven to work very well. So you have all that together is a very unique and well thought out package of what you need for this type of energies. And no one is amplifying properly. And if they do have amplifiers in the units, and pretty much nobody does, or if they do, they have one little crappy chip in there, some other nonsense in there. They're really not amplified. They're not putting out much energy whatsoever. And that's a big mistake. So you've got to amplify the entire process. And of course, you're using these kind of energies as piggybacks. So the radionic energy goes into here, and because there's a resonance of tubes, it is picked up, it is amplified through the tachyons, and then moved into a transmitter, kind of gets it out there. Of course, there's the quantum physics connection through the web of life, so to speak, where everything's a giant web that everybody's connected to. But there is a physical reality as well that we just like to get the energy out there. But we must remember this is not Hertzian energy. The Hertzian energy in radionics, which has really never been there. No radionic machines put out Hertzian energies or frequencies or anything else. Frequency machines are frequency machines. They are not radionic machines. So there's some boobs out there that confuse themselves to this and are putting together a big bunch of junk. So we have to be very careful with that and what's going on in general. And we have to know this so that everyone understands it. But if you're going to make equipment, and even if you're going to use it, you've got to make sure you understand, well, what are you using? Are you trying to put water through an electrical wire? Well, I think you're going to fail if you try and do that. So the whole idea, if you try and put electricity through a water hose, and it don't work, well, you're doing it wrong. Well, that's not what science says. So the whole idea is that we run into this nonsense all the time, and apparently, as I said, only Radionic Tech has really figured it out. There's a lot of interesting books out there. They have a lot of interesting ideas, but they really haven't figured it out. If you don't understand subtle energy physics, which is detailed in my course, which I believe is 8 or 9 one-hour lessons to explain subtle energy physics to you, you don't get it. And if you don't get it, you get poor results. Understanding it, getting your whole consciousness involved in this type of consciousness technology is how you get the great results. And we get great results all the time with everything. And I've done it for over 50 years, coming from absolutely nothing and having nothing to doing pretty damn well. So the whole idea is everybody has to do that, and everyone who uses my technology gets a huge boost in their life. But you got to remember, nothing is a magic lamp machine, and if you're looking for that technology, no matter whom you're trying to get it from, you will be disappointed. Life ain't that simple, and there are no answers like that. So if you get caught in that stuff and you get your pocket picked, well, you're the problem, not the manufacturer, even though these people are delusional and the really sad problems in the radionic industry. But that's a whole nother story. Check out all my other lectures. So you've got these 3 discs, and these 3 discs are meant to transfer the energy from one device to the other, And this makes a strong connection by using these antennas, which in many aspects have always been transferring the actual effective energy. Now, we look at things like multi-wave oscillators, which are frequency machines. We even look at frequency Rife type machines. Well, you know, the real energy happening there is not the Hertzian fields that these things produce. Really, what gets the effect is the subtle energies that accompanying these frequencies. So if you have a particular frequency, there's a subtle energy connected to that. So if you measure something out at 432 hertz, and this does a certain, produces a certain energy within a biofield, well, it's not really the hertz itself that's doing the work. The hertz are a carrier wave for the subtle energies. So all of this will be detailed in, again, my subtle energy physics course, my Gnosis course, and of course, my Radionic course. But I've developed this to get away from all these silly little wires. Now, we found out that wires, copper wires, decrease the flow of subtle energy in this process. So if you have wires in your machine that are copper or metal, well, they're actually not working at peak performance. We have special wiring that we have developed now and be putting in our units, our advanced units in the future. And all that is something to keep in mind here as the way things work properly. So the using of multi-metals, the using of plastics as in fiber optics and photon beams carry this type of energy out there. And as I said, even Rife-type frequency machines are not working from the pure frequency alone. But there is an electromagnetic component to human beings and your consciousness and brain. So there is those aspects to everything as well. So it's important that you understand that as well. But again, the subtle energy physics course goes into that. Let's get back to how these discs work. Now, you've got the 3 discs. This is to send energy to the amp. This is to send energy from the amp to the transmitter. And that's how it works. Very, very simple. Generally, you use your radionic machines the exact same way you normally would. Now, as I said, there's a lot of radionic machines out there, and if you have a particular type that has orgone or has a questionable manufacturer, make sure you put a clearing disc under it first. Another way, and I'll show you different ways to boost the energies here. But all you need to do is make sure you're using the right disc, because you have to use number 1 here to go under whatever unit that may be. And let's put one of our classic boxes up here as well. And that's why we use a lot of this. You know, rates and everything else can really only be gotten by experts. It's going to be difficult for you to do that yourself. But if you go through my course and you get properly trained, you'll be able to do your own rates. But you could use this disc under this as well. But you can use this disc under anybody's machine. And as I said, there are hundreds and thousands, well, there's thousands, tens of thousands of radionic machines out there built in the last 5 or 10 years from numerous manufacturers. So it doesn't matter. This will transfer whatever's in your. Now, this is an old machine that I've used for about 15, 20 years, and one of my favorites, and that I manufactured. But you can use any machine. It doesn't matter whose machine it is or what it is in general. But so if you have a machine and maybe you even like it, well, it's not empowered enough. You haven't amplified the energy in there correctly because nobody is using the right amplifiers except me. You've got to have one of these tube amplifiers, which will triple, quadruple, who knows, 100 times, a couple of thousand times more powerful than a lot of machines that really have nothing in them. There's really nothing in a radionic machine. They're just dials and wires, and very few have amplifiers on it. If they do have amplifiers, or they do have stimulant energies in there, the fad of orgone, which is basically accumulating toxic energies, none of this stuff helps the process. And again, we found out that this energy actually is decreased by going through standard wiring, and we're changing that. And of course, there is a component of Hertzian energy fields in radionics. It's probably about 5% or less that actually is electromagnetic. You got to remember, the big results come from your consciousness connection. You're projecting the unique energy, which is consciousness, or considered psychoenergetic, bioenergetic energies produced. I hate to use the word psychic because that's a word that now needs crap. But it's a type of hybrid energy. It's really not psychic coming from you. It's a combination of energies that you draw to you and use. But what you do at number one, because this is sending it to the amp, you just slide it under there. Can that get any easier? Well, that's what real tech is, people. It's not spending hours learning a program, screwing with it, and so forth. I just went into this with a program offer, Canva, which has a really cool editing site. It's very difficult to use. That ain't tech, I told them. I don't want to spend 4 hours figuring out how to use your site. That's garbage. So the whole idea is that then you have this. Now we have disc 2. And again, they're labeled. The actual cases they come with are labeled as well. You can see there, amplifier to transmitter number 2. This is the amplifier, and it's going to the transmitter. Kind of easy, ain't it? So the whole idea is it's marked on here. And of course, you have that all critical code here. Very, very important because that stimulates everything. What do you do with that?
Ooh, it's complicated, Dr. Thor. I can't get that. Wow. You mean you gotta slide it all the way under? That's kind of hard work.
So the whole idea is you put that under there. And of course, we have number 3. Now, where does this energy gonna go to? Well, this is going to be disc 3. And this, of course, sends the amplified energy into the transmitter. And these are basically, we would consider these subtle energy antennas and receivers. This would be a tri-receiver. It receives and sends the energy off to the other one. Very, very simple. That's how it works. And basically, you're done. Now, we do use a little, and this comes with an antenna as well here, your transmitter. And there are ways to actually get some more direct electromagnetic connections if you want it. And, adding that little 5% in may be helpful. And, people overcoming the fact that
there ain't no wires. It's gonna make me weird, Dr. Thor. I'm going to spend all day thinking that it's happening.
But the bottom line is we're using Bluetooth technologies all the time now. We're using wireless devices. We project wireless energies. There are radios. There are walkie-talkies, otherwise known as hand talkies. All of these things, we've been using wireless stuff for years. And now it's pretty common that we're using wireless commands and so forth. Your TV control to change your channel. Well, that's wireless, isn't it? Well, it certainly is. You press a little button, it shoots a light beam into it, and it's transferring energy through a light beam. But you're talking about, again, a particular energetic, simplistic field. Unlike these that are a special kind of field where you don't really need to have a physical beam to transfer the energy. So that's all part of the reality of what's going on there. That you have to understand as well. So something that's wireless should not throw you for a loop. But let's add in that, being the master engineer that I am, we can also use, and let me get my extra parts here. We can also directly connect these.
Oh, yeah?
That's right. So, now I don't know what kind of, Most radionic machines and the users of them are so ignorant that they don't really make something that is modular in effect. Now, I've always made modular systems, meaning I have in and out jacks. Usually a lot more of these, but there's usually either 2 in and 2 out with most of my units. This is an older one, so it only has 1, but this is just allows you to send energy into the unit, and energy that's coming out of the unit after you tune it is coming out here as well, and you can then channel that. So if you wanted to add anything on here in a physical nature, you certainly could do that by just plugging it in. That's modular, that's engineering, that's tech, people. Not having to buy a whole new unit or other things because people are just trying to rip you off. Well, get your upgrades. You want a new, better amp when they come out, and I'm sure they will in the future. This has just come out recently, but it's a great amp. Well, you can get it. You want a bigger one? Well, we're going to offer bigger and stronger amplifiers in the future, and you'll be able to connect it to your system either wirelessly or you can even plug it in. Now, one of the things that we have here is a new system of using all of that, which is the fact of a new system that I've come up with. Let me see if I can, and there's a few ways of doing this. So, get one of these wires here. There's a few ways of doing this if you want to transfer energies through using the disc or not using the disc. Now, one of the things that we can do here right off the bat is that we can use antennas. So, and with your upgrade kits, we usually send you a couple of these kind of smaller antennas. I only have one right now, but right now you're taking this energy that's in here with the actual disc underneath, and it's coming out this antenna. Now, you can put it into your unit here. Now, these are a little heavy, these antennas. That's why we don't use them for most of that. So what you're doing is the energy is coming out of here. It goes in here. This then is receiving it. And, of course, you're then getting a transfer over here. Now, you could actually put another antenna here, and that could then send it to here. But you don't really have to do that. So you're sending energy to the different units. This is then picking it up, and this is being transferred over here, and you have that other antenna to send it out. But there are ways you can go around that as well. Now, let's look at the back of our tube amplifiers here, and then we will show you the process here. Now, these new tube amplifiers actually... And, of course, we've got some sacred energy patterns there. But what we do have here is on the back is you have a space to put 4 different items in. The only problem with these amplifiers is that you can't really use 4 different in feeds because you have to set the input to one of the 4 input jacks. So that kind of, you're not getting a blending of 4 energy. So it's kind of a waste of time here having multi-inputs, but maybe we'll find some use for that in the future. So as you can see here, it says input right here. Now, see right here we have the inputs of what's going on there. And this is input for 1, which is exactly what we have it set on. Now, if you wanted to plug other things in and you want the flow to go in here physically, you will have to adjust the front dial. So if you want to plug something into actually 4 there, you then would have to turn this to 4. So you can't have multiple inputs that work through the unit because that's not how it's designed here. Now, what do you do here? Well, we have adapters here. Now, here's a basic RCA jacks, which is what's on here. And these then go down to a 3.5, which is what most of our wiring is. So what we have it right now is set on 1. So you would put this on 1 and just plug it in. Slide it right in, really simple. So, and of course, here's the power switch for this. You just press it in and out. It's very well made. So this is in, and this is the output. Now, what's interesting about this is the output is going to they have two separate outputs if you want to double up energies for one reason or another. But there's no really reason to do that. We generally use both of the outputs. We actually, see how what I usually do is, since there's right and left here with the outputs, 1 and 2, well, I generally go across here to use, so you pick up both of them, both of the energy, so that it is actually, I usually put them in the actual red here, and that will pick up the energies. Let me see if I did that right. Well, actually, I put it like this. This way you're picking up both of those going out, and it's as simple as that. So, but that's where, so if you want to send energy with a wire, all you need to do here, and that depends again in terms of what you have in a actual unit. So I'm assuming that you don't have any wires, but in a unit like this, you would plug in an actual 3.5, pull back here, you'd plug the 3.5 into your out jack, or maybe you have another out jack, maybe you have some sort of out jack, and you can get adapters if you need to go from 3.5 to, or an RCA to 3.5. You certainly can do that, or whatever the wires work for you. And then you would take the other end here and you would plug that into there. Just as simple as that. Now you're sending energy directly into it by using a wire. So that's if you have a unit that works like that, or you have an in and out jack. Now, our new side generators have in and out jacks as well, and we'll show you how to use some of that. But if you want to use an actual, get some of my parts right. If you want to connect directly to the plates, now that's one way to do it. What you would do over here as well is that you would start so the energy is going into the unit now and picking up a Hertzian type energies. Now it's going in, but if you want to send it out to the transmitter, you would then have to plug a 3.5 into the adapter. And as I said, you've got to use adapters here. And then this would go into your transmitter. And of course, the mic is the in for the transmitter. So now you're getting the energy sent in, it then goes out, and you don't need antennas or anything else. So that is a great way of doing it. If you want to hardwire it as well as use the actual plates. So you'd have a setup similar to this. You'd put this over to the side here. Pull back here. So you've got the wire going into the in, the out goes to the transmitter, and you're done. Now you set up your radionic unit like you always do. You have your witness plate, and you have your rubbing or out plate, as I call it. And of course, you tune things from here, and then you put your photograph here. And we'll show you that in our radionic courses for those that want to learn how to dial machines. And it's as simple as that. Now, if you don't have a dial machine, you have a standard machine like this, you would be sending the energy. And of course, with these units now come with all sorts of energy plates to amplify them. And we always like to use these. We just stack them right in there. Usually put this at the bottom. You put the energizing plate on top of it. You put the other plate there. And then, of course, this is a super energy. And then you would put your photograph here with your desire on it. Okay? Now, these don't have a plug. So you can't do that. We're not going to make these with plugs. It's just extra work that's a problem. What you can do here is, again, you'd do the same thing. You would put it like this, and now the energy is being sent from here to there. And you want to state that. When you set this up, you sit back and say, I'm sending energy from my radionic machine to my amplifier to my transmitter. You just go out and state it. That's important for your consciousness to understand. We can take these wires off when we don't have if you don't, the wiring system. But there's another wiring system I'm going to show you here in a minute. Get all the wires out of here. Gets confusing. So that's how you physically wire this up. Now, let's say you don't have it, and we'll show that again, but let's say you don't actually have any kind of jacks on your system. Well, there's another way to get energy from here to here. And that's using our new little special electrical cords. So you get your actual plate here, and you attach it here, and you attach it here onto the plate. Generally, you want to put the actual connectors onto, at least one of them has to go onto the number here. So you should always do that because that's an important energetic function of this. You then stick it under your box, whatever it may be, your machine, etc. You just stick it under like that. It doesn't go all the way under. You kind of stick it off to the side. This then goes into the actual input. Now, there's another little trick here, which we'll show you, because you can buy just, did I show that going into the input? I don't think so. It goes into the input in the back. Now, the other thing you can actually do here is to, so this is a great way if you want that wire connector. So now you've got this connectors using this special type of electrical wire connector. And you can then send up the energy from this box, and it's all in here, lots of energy, but you got to amplify it again. And everything stays in here, but the energy then is amplified, projected out, and then it creates this entire manifesting energy within the box itself and sending the energy to whomever is in the box. Now, the other thing you do is a lot of times if you just want to buy an amplifier, you can get some effects from it. Now, it's not as strong as if you have a transmitter with you, but you can also, and this comes if you get an amplifier by itself, is that you can then just use one of our antennas in the out. And of course, these jacks and everything else, it just depends how tight they are and how they work. It's not all that critical, but it's like everything else. Some things work better than others in terms of their manufacturing, which has nothing to do with me, but of what you get. But we like these little antennas, and you then do that. So let's recap here in terms of showing you what we have here. So we have this connector, which is going over to here. This then goes to the in, okay? This is where it's going in. And to go out here, you have a antenna again. This actual little jack isn't too good, so it's wobbly, but then you have an antenna. So the energy is going in here, it's being amplified, and then instead of transferring it to an actual transmitter, well, it's kind of shooting the energy out anyway. So it's not as effective as a transmitter, but it certainly is another way to use just an amplifier to do that. Now, you could, again, from this aspect, you can, where's that cord? Here we go. You could use another and these are all 3.5. You could use a 3.5 from the out. To the in here. So again, if you want to wire something up, that's a great way to do it by using the amplifiers, and that way you don't have to you can use the wiring, which a lot of people kind of prefer and have a mental block to, but you will increase your energy to about 5% because we're transferring the subtle energies the way they should be anyway here. So since we're transferring it the way it should be here, there is a small 5% of Hertzian type energies if you want to grab those that you can grab with it. But as I've mentioned, generally using in machines using wires that go from dials, etc., is a bad way to do things. The actual electrical wiring keep the actual subtle energies, makes them decrease in energy and work poorly. What most radionics machines are is just psychic focusing. There's nothing else to them. Do understand that. So if you have a dial machine, there's nothing happening with the dials. They're connected to nothing. There's no electricity going through them. And this is classic with almost every machine made. There's no electricity going through them.